is the difference between seeing and staring? Sometimes, you are looking at or you are gazing at something. You are looking at it. Gazing is a blank look, staring is a blank look. You are following me. Looking at your eyes, I know you're concentrating or not. In fact, that's the reason they say a speaker should have an eye contact with the audience. That's how you know whether you are attentive, whether you are following. So you are staring at me, that means you're here, and yet your mind has gone. It's gone for a walk. So the door is open, you conveniently walked out. Tanisha, next time close the door. Huh? Hopefully it will remain in the classroom. So what is it that is enabling you to see? Is it the Goliaths? Is it the gross fleshy eyes? No, it is the mind. The mind which is behind the eye, it should back the perception to register it. What is it that places the mind in the present? It is the intellect. What is it that's enabling the intellect to do what it's doing? So you go back and back and back, it has to zero in on Atman. So it's not what you see. Oh, I've gone to Mount Kailash. And seen what? Oh, I've seen God in its true glory. He's saying, it's not what you see, that which enables you to see. If you can ever get a definition of God in the Kenopanishad, that's the best definition. Now what do you mean by that? God is not something which can be seen. God is not that which can be heard. God is not that which can be felt or understood. Then what is God? That which enables you to feel, that which enables you to perceive, that which enables you to think. So God is not an object of perception, emotion, thought. Then what is God? It is that which enables you to perceive, feel and act. It is the subject, not the object. Object means external. Subject is? What does subject mean? It's like you want to see the make of the battery of a torchlight in darkness. Is it possible, sir? A very powerful light, I am getting such a thick beam of light. Which make is it? In anxiety you want to see the make of the battery in pitch darkness. Quickly what you do, you remove the knob behind and you take out the battery. The moment the knob is, the cap behind is removed, there is no more light. Where is the light? No more light. So God is like that battery which is giving light to the very bulb. You want to see the source with the bulb? Not possible, man. Mudiyade. So you want to capture God with your limitation of your eyes. So he says, one sees this as a wonder, another hears of this as a wonder, another speaks of this wonder, but yet none knows this at all, except a man of realization, except him. Because you're only hearing, but you've not made it your own. You know the word self-realization, or that self-realization is not an experience. Like you can go back and say someone, oh, I had an experience of attending the Gita class. Can you say that? Experience you have, sir? Yes or no? You can say yes. So what has brought about your experience? What is that? What factors were there to bring about that experience? Not in that sense, but you have any experience for that matter. I'm just taking the context of the class. But when you say experience, what requires an experience? An experience requires two factors. What are they? You, who is the subject, I am the object. In fact, everyone else is the object, isn't it? Subject and object, you and the world. And there has to be that interaction between you and the world to create an experience. Self-realization is not an experience. They don't call it experience. They call it a becoming. Language breaks. Why is it called a becoming? Is because you are knowing yourself. Very draining, very tiring, very dragging. English. Language breaks. There is, who is the subject there? Self-realization. You are the subject. What is the object? Yourself. So I am trying to understand myself, and the moment I know myself, I experience the self. So it is not something that, see, God is always used as an object. Remember this, God is not an object, God is the very subject within. We may use various pointers until we get to the point where you say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am that truth. That is the highest declaration a man of realization can give is, I am that. This is the truth declared by the masters. Never mind, put that aside. We'll come back to it another day. Now what is interesting is, there are 4 stages of intellectual development you need to know. It is often explained in the context, so you understand how the intellect has evolved over generations. The first level of intellectual development is known as age of perception or age of gazing. Girls, remember, I'm going to ask you again soon. The first stage of intellectual development is what do you got? Age of perception or age of gazing. An example of age of perception or age of gazing is when you look at a cattle or a cow. What is doing? It's just perceiving, just gazing. Nothing is happening inside. Age of perception. It took decades or generations thereafter the intellect to evolve from the age of perception. Then came the age of superstition. The age of superstition or the age of observation. You started observing things around. And when you observed things around, you started connecting two ends. You started connecting a cause and effect. But then you start connecting a wrong cause to wrong effect. That's the age of superstition. Example, nariya irukano. What is it? After the fourth step, you'll understand. So here he is talking about wonderment, isn't it? In order to attune that wonderment, you need to have that intellect, isn't it? That sukshma buddhi you need to have. What is the sukshma buddhi? What is it? There are two intellects. One is the tikshna buddhi and the sukshma buddhi. The tikshna buddhi is known as the gross intellect. And then there is the subtle intellect. You need the subtle intellect to attune to God. In fact, you know, sir, what is it that brings you to this classroom? The subtle intellect. You want to pursue in this journey, you need to have a subtle intellect. And therefore I put the 4 stages of intellectual development. And the connection la solradhu. First stage is age of perception or gazing. Second, Vaishnavi, age of or observation. When you start observing things and start connecting 2 dots, you start putting a cause and effect. What is age of superstition? You connect a cause and effect, but you connect a wrong cause, wrong effect. Oh, while I'm leaving the house, somebody sneezed. I remember mothers to say, hey, kuchan bora. Renishal kuchan bo. I say, we will see whether I have an accident or not. I used to challenge her. And even when I had accident, not because of sneezing. Because I've had a few accidents in my life. Has got nothing to do with the sneezing in the house. Enamma? No, other connection. I knew you'd say that. That's why I also clarified. Huh? சொல்லுங்க. Like? Can you give an example? ஒரு கொடுங்க. So what is good time for me? Maybe the most, it's interesting, in certain communities, what is not good for you, other communities is very good for them. No, we are not saying no to it. No, we are not challenging any system. No, we are not. No, we are not criticizing anything. Right. Yes, sir, Murthy garu. Sorry, sir. Yeah, see, when you start observing things and start connecting a certain cause to a certain effect, like when the apple fell, they attributed to the thundering, the lightning. The thundering and lightning has nothing to do for the apple to fall. You and I know it is because of the gravitational law. So you may hold on to the age of superstition, or you attribute a wrong cause, wrong effect. It's like my mother used to say, any subject which is difficult for you, put that book under the pillow and sleep. Somehow knowledge will be transmitted into the head, especially before exams. I remember I used to say that. There's a belief system. Now, whether it is the right or wrong, good or bad, no, I'm only presenting it as a matter of observation. Take it which appeals to your reason. I'm not saying white or black. I'm presenting certain things. I'm saying intellect has evolved over generations. The first was age of gazing down, no intellect at all, like animal intellect. Then came intellect where you started connecting wrong cause, wrong effect. Then came the era, it's called the age of scientific inquiry. Everything has to be proven, everything has to have a methodology, a scientific approach, where you come to rational conclusions, you're accurate, you're precise, there's a cause and effect, you draw a dot, connect it. The present generation perhaps are going through an era where there is a scientific inquiry. They're very scientific. Like if I take a coconut to a temple, why are you taking coconut? Why not a pumpkin or a watermelon? No, nothing wrong. But in the house they only say take. They don't take watermelon. Interpret. I never seen in temples say watermelon, one fellow breaking muskmelon, other fellow making a coconut, other fellow breaking tomatoes, other fellow breaking peanuts. You don't see things like that being offered. Yeah, only coconut. Why only go 3 times? Why not go 4 times around the sanctum sanctum? I'm not saying anything right or wrong, but I'm only saying when you start questioning why it is being done. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, sir. Why do I put a tilak? Why? When you start questioning anything and inquiring the reason behind it, it's called the age of scientific inquiry. You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying it is right or wrong. Why you should not put a tilak or why you should not take a coconut. In fact, a coconut, why it's taken, do you know? Does anyone know why a coconut is taken? Solingma. Okay. What else? Next 1 hour I can give lecture on coconut. Not that I am challenging your understanding. Please, I would like to know how much you know of the coconut. Solingma. A complete fruit. Okay. Not wrong at all. Right. Yes, ma? Hmm. 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 The only thing so there's so much. In fact, the great masters have introduced with such clarity, with such understanding and such precision. You can go to the minutest aspect of the coconut fruit and it fits into the philosophy as a puzzle, as a jigsaw puzzle. You take male and female of a complicated machinery, it fits in. So the philosophy on one side and the symbolism, what you gather from a coconut, is mind-boggling. I'll just give you a little glimpse of it. When you get the coconut from a tree, the green outer aspect of the coconut is smooth and round. That refers to the gross body. The physical body, you are nice and round, presentable and smooth. The coconut is round and smooth. Outer personality is the gross body. Have you ever attempted to remove the coir? If you don't have the right tool, you will break tools and you will struggle to remove the coir. So the inside part of the coconut, which is tightly held to the kernel, or not the kernel, the shell, the matted locks, which is very hard and tight and very difficult to tear, it refers to the subtle body. The subtle body refers to the minds and the desires and the attachments, very strong. What is it holding on to? The shell. The shell refers to the causal body. So the gross, subtle, causal. When you remove the coir, no temple will accept a coconut without a tuft. Why? No pujari will accept a coconut without a tuft there. When I have removed so much effort and removed the coir, why do I leave that small tuft? Have you ever thought why? There's a verse in the 18th chapter which clarifies that. Sarva dharma moksha ishyami masuchaha. What it means? Sarva dharman parityaja. Here vasanas. He says, you relinquish all your vasanas. For my sake, give up all your vasanas. Aham tva sarva papebhya. Of your papam, which is the last vasanas, moksha ishyami masuchaha. So what you got to do is get rid of all your attachments and worldly desires for my sake alone. So when you go to you have given up all your worldly attachments and desires. A coconut symbolizes a human being. There is no closer symbolism of a human being than a coconut. Coconut is taken. Go. You got to get rid of all your selfishness, your attachments, your desires, and with a very few desires, which is symbolic of the tuft. And when you do that, what happens? When the pujari removing it, he breaks the coconut, removes the tuft. When you remove the tuft, what do you see? 3 dots. The 3 dots refers to the 2 eyes and the third eye, the awakening of the third eye, the jnana chakshu. The breaking of the shell refers to the destruction of the ego. And there are times when you extend the parable or symbolism, when the water, another interpretation is the water in the coconut refers to the desires and the vasanas. When they dry away, what happens? When the vasanas dry, what happens? When the water in the coconut dries away, what happens? Huh? Sometimes a flower comes, but the question is, when the water content in the coconut dries away, what happens? The kernel, which you call the kobbari, the copra, the coconut separates from the shell. So when the shell breaks, the coconut is intact. So the essential part of the coconut is the the kernel, the copra, that is the self. So when the vasanas are no more, the self is detached to the personality. So everything is intact outside. The causal body, the gross body, subtle body, everything is there. But because of the vasanas are no more, it detaches to the personality. So actually you can hear, sometimes you rattle, you can hear the rattling of the copra. So much more to it, believe me. Now when you question this, the younger generation needs to be given a reason why you're doing it. Not that you can't take anything else, but the reason this is taken is because it symbolizes, man, association of thought. Scientific inquiry. The fourth level of intellectual development is the highest, is known as the age of contemplation. The age of contemplation is when you question the very law itself. Age of scientific inquiry is presenting all these laws, the various laws of functioning, isn't it? But when you question why two atoms of hydrogen combine with an atom of oxygen to form a molecule of water, why H2O? Who put it? Nobody can answer. Where science ends, that's where spirituality begins. So that is where you question the very origin. Who is it who has done it? You know, a human body has got maybe 5 to 5.5 liters of blood. Any healthy human being has got a 5.5 liters of blood. And you know how much distance does it travel in a day? Any guess? How much distance your blood travels in a day? Any idea, sir? Enama? Avada? Every day your blood travels 19,000 kilometers. Every day. These science journals say that. 24 hours it has done 19,000 kilometers, which is almost 12,000 miles. Every day your blood is running up and down throughout the body. A scientific fellow will say, oh, is it? Then he'll examine the facts of it. A fellow with the age of contemplation will say, Ashcharya. Wow. Who has put it? Who is overseeing it? Who is commanding it? Who is controlling it? I don't even know about it. Informative I know. But all this while, who is controlling it? Let's say the blood doesn't circulate as much it must circulate. What will happen? Enormous complications. Ashcharya. I can go on. I'll give you another point which is staggering. You know, I watch a lot of National Geographic. This is pure philosophy. It is philosophy. Many years ago, I saw a documentary on King Cobra. It's called It's the king of snakes, as you all know. The whole episode is talking about how a king cobra, it's the only, if I'm not wrong, it's the only snake which lays eggs. So it is trying to build a nest. Imagine a king cobra builds a nest of this height with dry leaves of a bamboo area. In a bamboo area, the dry leaves, it builds a nest, sir. Amazing how a snake building a nest with its body. How it pulls all the dry leaves and builds a nest, lays the eggs and guards the eggs for 3 months. It fasts, doesn't desert the nest for 3 months. And one day before the eggs hatch, the mother leaves, never to see its offsprings again. If that is not a wonder, then the scientists explain why the mother leaves, never to meet its offspring. And you know why the mother leaves? One day before it leaves. Because by nature, a king cobra is a snake eater. So the moment it sees the offspring, it will eat it by nature. So to protect it from eating its own little ones, it leaves one day before. Who plants that? Who says that you got to leave? What calendar are you talking about? What planetary system are you talking about? A snake, who has planted that thought? Australia. It might meet its own offspring in the wild somewhere, it will eat it. It will. But at that moment it leaves. And the next day the eggs are hatching. Because he is capturing everything. I thought it is a wonder. Australia. How is it? Who has planted it? Who is controlling it? You go into the detail, you see, isn't there wonder all around you? Isn't there wonder everywhere? You look at a flower, such beautiful, it's a beauty, isn't it a wonder? Sometimes you see a butterfly, isn't that beautiful colors it's got? It's a master painting. It's got a complete red border, blue, 2 dots of pink, shades of grey. Does the butterfly know its own beauty? Who has designed it? So when you look, okay, if this has not triggered anything in you, I know you all are reacting to it. If I were to completely blindfold you and take you and stand in front of the mighty Mount Everest, you have never seen that sight ever, and I remove the blindfold, and the first sight when you look at that mighty Mount Everest, what does it say? Wow. What would you go thereafter? What would you do thereafter? What would your thoughts be thereafter? Wouldn't you? What a creation! Instantly, aren't you reminder of the Creator? Your hair stands on and you say, what a creation. It's too grand. You look at the Niagara Falls, or you look at any wonder, Australia. So there are experiences in your life that can remind you of the Creator. One sees this as a wonder, also another speaks of the wonder, another hears of this wonder, yet having heard, none knows this at all. So there is wonderment where? In the flower blossoming, in the examples I've taken, in the butterfly, in the snake, in you, the blood circulating 19,000 kilometers every day, my God. Even in your sleep it's happening. Not a joke, 19,000 kilometers. Huh? Imagine. Huh? Look at every particle, everything that's happening, it's because of what? Isn't it Ascharya, wonderment? What do you need to do to remember of what? Okay, what is it that reminds you of God? Okay, this is I've given you factual details, I've given you facts where everything is happening, everything is a wonderment. Another day I was watching a documentary, Man versus Wild. This guy is in the dead wild and he is in the sea. You can't drink that water, he's thirsty, he hasn't had water for a long time, he is dying of thirst. And then he says, he sees a sea snake, which is the poisonous snake, and he is not even, and neither his crew is carrying an antidote. If that snake strikes, the matter of minutes, he'll die, certain. And yet he is swimming behind the snake. The snake, he says, is going to take me to the fresh waters. So from the sea, it is going to the point where the fresh water is merging into the sea. He would know where the fresh water is, and he follows the snake, and the snake leads him exactly to where the fresh water source is. And after the snake goes away, he tastes it, he says, it's river water, fresh water. How is it? Australia. It's a wonderment. He said, without that snake, I would die. I would not know how to survive. And he's giving us clues how to survive when you're in the wild. Bear Grylls, his name. Watch his document. Outstanding. There are certain sections you can't stand how he does certain things. But it is all wonderment. Now, I tell you, there's so much wonder out there. So what does it take for you to recognize God? What does it take? What does it need for you to recognize God? Sorry, sir? Sir, I have not spoken of the belief. I am talking about a wonderment. I said about a flower to a moth to a butterfly. I talked about blood circulating in your system. I have spoken about snake. I have spoken about the mountain, the Niagara Fall. There's no belief here. The moment you yourself say, oh my God, what a creation. So we are only positing there has to be a creator. When you look at a marvel of a creation, it's a beautiful art piece. Don't you instantly say, oh, who is that artist? Who is the creator? See, even in an art piece you see, you say, wow, what a creation. You instantly are thinking of the creator. So when you look at that creation, you are reminded of God. We are saying that creator, we are calling it as God. Now you may call any name, doesn't matter. Now my question is, what does it take for you to attune to God? So in the list, one end is Mount Everest, other end is a flower, sir. What does it need for you? What do you need to trigger you to that wonderment? Nature? In the nature. So many things are happening. Yes, it is. Yeah. See, I don't know whether you are getting the point. I will leave you with this statement. I'll come back next week. We'll start the class with this statement. So please take a note of it. And think about it in the context of the examples I've taken. I've given you the clue, the line of thought, and the question. The fact is, the statement you got to remember is, spiritual development and the triggering point is inversely proportional. the spiritual development vis-a-vis the triggering point or the expression you need to recognize God is inversely proportional. Hello, sir. What is the graph I'm giving? Spiritual development vis-a-vis the expression. They are two inversely proportional another. One side is 100, other side is 0. This comes to 70, this comes to 30, 50-50, 80-20, 0-100. It is inversely proportional. So, spiritual development versus the expression to identify God is inverse. Now, this either breaks the ice or completely confuses you. I go to in Tirupati. I have gone umpty number of times in my life. I'm so thankful I've done that. It's a feeling, it's a very divine feeling. There is a local Balaji temple also somewhere here in the city, where there is a Birla Mandir. I go to the temple there, also a certain feeling. Let's say another Balaji temple in our colony. I've also gone there. I've also actually got the same photograph of Lord Balaji from Tirupati, which is there in my puja room. And I've also got a pocket photograph of Balaji in my wallet. All examples. Now, what does it take for you to arouse that spiritual feeling? When you look at that mere portrait of Lord Balaji, does it arouse the same feeling as much as going to Lord Balaji in Tirupati, in Tirumala? Here is a tool to measure your spiritual development. Means, when a person is highly developed, he needs least expression to trigger to God. A person less developed, he needs a grand expression for him to remind him of the same God. The same God is there right now sitting. What is it that is enabling you to breathe? You are unconscious of it, still breathing, isn't it? Who is that? Ascharya. Ascharya is who? I'm breathing. My heart is beating. Ascharya. See, this is as I said, this knowledge is catering to those who have that subtle intellect, that spiritual wonderment, the age of contemplation. But how profound is it or how dull it is what you got to find out. If you have a profound subtle intellect, you don't need, sometimes just looking at a sunrise or a sunset, you can go into raptures. Believe me, you don't have to, a student of mine, I should not be saying recording because sometimes she'll get this video. A student of mine in Malaysia, she climbed the Mount Kinabalu. It is the highest. Many students have gone, because I actually enjoy a lot of trekking. I do whenever so a student of mine went to the mountain, and it is such a steep climb. Apparently it's an overnight climb, so you got to sleep and then start the second stage of your climb or last leg of your climb. You got to start from 2 o'clock in the morning. You go with the torch lights and then reach 5:30, 6, just time for the sunrise. So you got to start the morning and keep going 3-4 stages. 2 o'clock in the morning, you reach next morning the highest mountain in Malaysia, and everybody goes to see the sunrise. And her reaction was, it is the same sun. I didn't find any difference. Even climbing Mount Kinabalu doesn't excite her. Seeing the sun from that height also doesn't excite her. Now what will excite her? Maybe she has to climb the Mount Everest. I was behold. You don't have to. You can see that same thing sitting here. I don't know whether you have ever taken that road. Sometimes, from the Gansham, evening 6 o'clock. What time your music class ends, Vaishnavi? The government college one. 5:30. 5:30 sometimes I'm taking her back and the sun is right at that stretch of the road. And many a times I've told Vaishnavi, what a beautiful sunset. So it's like a red ball, like an apple on the sky, red apple. So it's a miracle, it's a wonderment. And yet around you, if I were to stare for another second, I will not be sitting here to tell this. I will be in some hospital, some ICU somewhere. Chaos around you. How many of them have got the time to stand back and appreciate the divinity? He says divinity is splashed everywhere. What is it you do is, you don't have the eyes to see. You don't have the ears to hear. But it is there everywhere. It's a wonder. You don't know it. Why you don't know it? You don't have the Sukshma Buddhi. That's the reason I said age of development of the human intellect. First, age of perception, age of gazing, age of superstition, age of observation, age of scientific inquiry, and then came the age of contemplation. This was the peak. Now it's climbing back down. It's no more a wonder. You're dead. Sadly. Okay. Is it? Sorry, Chapandi, you're saying something?
You asked a question. Passport.